All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are back on. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties, but nonetheless, as I stated in the comments, you will be able to see the replay and it will be the full thing. So we are sorry about that. So nonetheless, let's continue. I'm picking up from right where we left off on the last connection. So how did I get to this point? All right, I'm just want to share with you again a brief overview of my background. I haven't shared this all year in our community. But again, many of you have already known I've served in many different capacities, right? I was in the military, and as I got out of the military, I got into nonprofit work, ministry related work. I've served as a pastor for for a while now. I've been in Texas here since 2012. We work with two churches right now at the moment, and we do a lot of work. We do humanitarian endeavors along with publishing and doing all these things. So we believe that you can be multifaceted, just utilizing the gifts and talent that God has given to you. So let me just briefly share with you, some of you who might not know this. This is a journey that I've been on, and I want you to be aware of it. Okay, so let's go. So these are some of the things. When I graduated from high school, the easiest ticket for me was to join the military. So I went into the military as a young man of 18 years old because it was the way for me to be able to honestly pay for my education. But when I got in the military, I pretty much, got caught up into the drama and the lifestyle, right? Trying to impress people, the ladies, and doing all of those type of things. One of my things was, I think I had a passion or fetish, if you want to call it that, for cars. So we would be, driving all kind of car, buying different cars, renting cars on the weekend, traveling all throughout Italy. And in the above pictures, on the left here, that's those two pictures are in Italy, and the middle one on the BMW, so forth. And so, these were some of the lifestyle that I've lived. On the bottom right, those was in Guam when I lived there, in Guam. So traveling in the military was something that I appreciated. But again, like most young people, when you're making some money, you begin to kind of live, as it were, that prodigal lifestyle. But I made a change. I made a decision that, like I said, what if you've read my first book, From Sailor to Saint, it really goes into how I make a spiritual transformation. And that was the reason why I got out of the military. I was doing very well in the Navy with God's grace and blessing, but I made a pact, if you read my book, that I wanted to, get one last promotion before I got out because I knew my time was coming. So I spent 7 years, 7 months in the Navy. And one of the things I did was I covenant with God in prayer. You see the power of prayer? So I asked God, I said, Lord, if you would give me one last promotions, because I wanted to get out as an E6, and in the enlisted ranks, you could only go up to 9. So I said, even though I was young at that time, I skipped ranks, I got accelerated advancement. And so I said, Lord, I want you to bless me. I want to know your will. I don't understand it, but I'm going to do a Gideon thing. I'm putting out my Gideon fleece, as it were. And we talk about this as we go through the course. And so God answered my prayer. God answered my prayer. And when I got promoted, instead of staying, I took that as a sign for me to actually leave. And so I got out. I went to Amazing Facts College of Evangelism in California. I took a training course with them. And that's how I began my ministry in the year 2005. And then part of what I felt led to do was begin writing. I asked God for wisdom. Again, this is another thing. I'm going to share with you all of these. At this point in my life, at this time, I never took a class on writing books. I never took a publishing course, none of those things. But what I did, again, one of my favorite promises in the Bible was James 1:5, which is still is today. If you lack wisdom, ask of God, who gives to all men liberally and upbraided not, and will be given. And so I prayed for wisdom, and then all these ideas start coming for books. And so that was my main way of trying to do ministry until I got a broader picture of God's vision for my life. God gave me a vision that, it is not simply for you to do this thing. Don't box yourself in by one thing in particular, but you want to be multifaceted. And so that multifaceted really meant for me to get involved in mission, the core call of the Great Commission. So I decided to work with this organization called NAPS, which is a youth mission driven organization. And this was one of the foundational principles of why we believe that we were actually going to change the world. Because this quotation from the book Education says, with such an army of workers as our youth, rightly trained, might furnish how soon the message of a crucified, risen, and soon coming Savior might be carried to the entire world. So with that organization, we traveled all over the world. I've traveled now to over 26 different countries, and most of my traveling actually came not while I was in the military, but after. So I did more traveling with this organization than I did in the military. And it is what gave me my purpose in life. It is what set me on the course that I am on today, because I got to see poverty up close. I got to see the world. My horizons were broadened. And so this, I owe a lot of who I am today for God leading me into this ministry. So here are some of the places we've been to, because again, we know that at the end of it all, this is what it's all about. This global eternal impact that you and I can make. This is what it's all about. Okay. So my wife and I, I got married before I got out in the military in Puerto Rico. I met my wife. It took us a while for us to start our family because we were traveling all the time. But this is my son here, Joel, and so we are praising God for him and for the blessings that he has been to us. Okay, so here we are now. So this was my first foreign mission trip in Zimbabwe, and so I appreciate God's blessing and favor in doing this. This was the first time I went international, and this is what I saw the power of being able to help people, not just simply preach to them, but being able to actually meet their physical needs as well. So this opened my eyes. I mean, I never saw that many people in my life give their life to God. And so this got me hooked in foreign missions and evangelism. So that's how I got involved with that. Next year, the year after that, we went to Madagascar and Botswana. We did 2 missions back to back. And so here you see these were deep in the bush, Maralambo. These were some of our the university we were at as college students was Oakwood University, HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama. But we would take off every summer. We would go overseas and we would do a lot of work. But it was not only preaching. I know that you're seeing that. But one of the things we learned is that you will have to be like Jesus. We need to meet people's needs where they are. And so much so of what we see today, why people don't really get the results that they hope for, is because truly they're not actively engaged in the whole person ministry, the whole person concept. We just want to go out there and preach to people, but people are suffering, people are starving, and people need your help. And so we found that when we went there, we would spend 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And what we do is that we would meet the needs of the people, would help them physically, emotionally, financially, and different aspects like that. And that opened doors now to their hearts for us to be able to minister effectively to them. Again, so like I said, this was back to back. So this was the longest mission trip I've ever done. Okay, it took us pretty much almost 2 months or so to be able to do it. I think a little over 2 months, perhaps. So, like I said, as soon as we finished Madagascar, we went over to Mozambique, and so God bless us here. This was me with my friend here. The pastor is in the middle of the area where we were working, but right next to him in the white T-shirt is my good friend. His name is Derek Banda. And, one of the touching things is that, him and I, we continued to do ministry together, but he lost his life. He was killed a few years ago. And we were working in Tanzania. And he was supposed to be helping me now to get into other countries. And just before that, some young folks took his life unnecessarily. So these are the kind of things where, that's why I'm passionate and no one can tell me different, really, because I am a firm believer that to make a big difference, you should have all the resources that you can to do the work of God. And that's what truly drives me. So again, many of you may not know that aspect, but that's really my heart. 2009, we went over to the country of Mozambique. And this was my winding down with this ministry, this particular group. But again, 745 people gave their life to God. We started several churches, 5 of them we built. We trained young people. That's one of the differences, again, about our work. We don't focus on the cities, the big places. We go primarily to the rural areas, to the poorest of the poor. the most neglected, where most missionaries don't go. We go in those areas because, again, he said, go into all the world. And so we want to go to the people who are not really reached. And so, again, you see the same pattern. We would meet physical needs, we would help people, education, we provide programs for kids. Health is one of the biggest component of our work. And as we are doing that, just like Jesus, when he was on this earth, he met people, he helped them, and he gave them the word. But many a times we overlook the physical aspect because, somebody who's hungry, truth be told, they can't focus on whatever you want to tell them. You know, you meet a man without his shoes and you tell him that he can walk on streets of gold, but here he is, he can't even get a good shoe, a pair of shoes to walk on dirt, but you want to give him the streets of gold. So these are the kind of things where and everyone do their stuff their way, but I believe that there are some better ways, if you want to put it that way, to reach people and to help people. As they say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Then we went to Liberia in 2010, and this was wonderful. Again, this was my first time, I think, on the other side of Africa. We were primarily in Southern Africa, but this time we were able to venture in on the western side of Africa. And so here again, we similar work. It's always the same things over and over, but in different parts of the world, blessed people. And as you can see, again, outdoors. It's not city life. We would sleep it on the ground with these people. We would use the outhouse just like they do. Sometimes we'd have to dig holes and use that as our outhouse because, again, we didn't want to come there and make those people feel like we are so high society. No, we ate the same food that they were eating. Everything that they did is what we try to do because that was mingling and balancing, things. So we don't want them to feel, oh, here these Americans and they're so high society because, again, remember, we're in the rural. In the city, you might get away with some of that, but in the rural areas, they think differently and they act differently. And one of the ways to win their confidence is truly to come down to their level. So there we are on the dirt. You see a lot of the pictures are dirt outside. Okay. Then in 2011, we did not go on big evangelistic endeavors per se, but what we did was we organized teams of young people to be able to begin work in a new area, also Suriname. And so these groups that we formed, again, is YOD, which stood for Year of Dedication. These were young people that we motivated, encouraged, and challenged, and who took up the idea of every year they take 1 year off of their academic studies to focus entirely on getting out there, sharing God, and also, extending the goodness to humanity in the U.S. first, but then they will go somewhere overseas to culminate their experience. And it was really a great service learning. As you can see on the picture on the right here, as you are looking on the screen, it says medical clinic. So this is one of the things, again, where as students, we were able to raise enough money to buy our own mobile medical clinic. We didn't ask for it. We didn't get a grant for it. No, we went out and we raised money. We went out and did things in order to be able to get the kind of funds to do this kind of stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. When you leverage your talents, you can do a whole lot. So after I left that ministry, in 2012, I came to Texas to continue work, but the passion, like I said, was always there. So I continued working. And so one of my colleagues, who was still in the university at that time, he just graduated, by the way, this year. His name is Kojo Tumasi. So he and we went to Kenya. This was my first time in Kenya, and actually the church that I was working with prior to where I'm at now. When I first came to Texas in 2012, we moved to the Austin area, north of Austin, about 20 minutes north, in a place called Ronra. And the church where we were working there was primarily made up of Africans and also West Indians or folks from the Caribbean islands. And so one of them said, hey, Pastor, we see that you've gone all over the place. When are you going to go to Kenya? I said, hey, let's organize it. Let's go to Kenya then. And so it was just simple like that. It was, I think that was even my first board meeting with that church. And so we organized ourselves. And so I invited, I went to, with this young man, and we, again, well, God was able to use us instrumentally to plant, 2 new houses of worship, train 100 lay people, and, and different things like that. Because we always believe in training, and these people will do much more than we would do when we go there. So even though you see those numbers, they sound impressive, trust me, they're not. Because right now, those churches there, they have over 800 plus members. Many of them, their tithing, they were just new. Their tithing superseded even some of the biggest churches in their areas. Why? Because we teach them these principles of how to serve God and how to be stewards and even entrepreneurs. Okay, so next, 2014 Tanzania. This was really a wonderful experience for me as well. Again, these Kenya and Tanzania were my first journeys. Now I think on the eastern side, because like I said, most of the countries we did that I worked in were in southern Africa. Liberia was the first on the west, and then Kenya and Tanzania on the east. And so, and I'll show you there where I went to Ghana as well on the west. So as you can see, this has been my passion. So in 2017, I took a break. Actually, if you notice here, from foreign work, I didn't stop working locally, but that's because I had transitioned between this time and I moved to where I'm at now in South Texas, two congregations working with them. And so it took a while to adjust to them and to them to me and my strategy and way of working. But then I got a call from actually Kojo Tomasi's dad, and he's like, hey, pretty much invited me to go to Ghana with him. Actually, he's originally from Ghana, so I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's go. It's been almost 3 years, so I need to get back on that mission fever. So I went with him. It was just four of us, and we each conducted evangelism campaigns, and we both, I mean, we each four of us, we started a church in our particular area, and we were able to baptize together 130 people. So another thing about the West here, it's not as the South. When we do campaigns and so forth, people get baptized, but it's not as much as, or in large numbers. Let's put it that way, large numbers as on even the West. I mean the eastern side, and sometimes the South. We find that we would get hundreds and hundreds, but here it takes a lot more work. I guess maybe because they're a little more modern or something along those lines. And then lastly, again, I went back to Ghana, so it was a double dip because the first time, if you notice here, the first time, it was just four of us that went, and then we did a good work. We trained 390 people, but again, we didn't feel that, it was as powerful as we would hope. So I went back and I got with another ministry, a colleague of mine, and she's part of our community here. Many of you, I sent out an email this week introducing her as one of our new lecturers at Strategic Secrets University, Dr. Donna Cooper. She has a ministry called Faithful Path International. So I said, Doctor, listen, I just came back from Ghana, and that same year, I think 2017, she was also working in Senegal. So she went there, she did all health work, and I went to Ghana and I did all, ministry related work. So I say, you know what? We did not blend the type of ministry that I know can give great result. When we combine health and meeting people's needs, because remember, I went with somebody else in 2017. So, but I did not necessarily feel like I was in my skin because I was working the way they normally work, but not the way I normally work. So I said, Doctor, we need to go back and we got to do it right. So I said, okay, let's organize a team and let's take a group now of people, and we're going to go over there and we're going to work together. So we went there, and as you can see, the impact is astronomical. So we did, we were able to train 150. We condensed less people we trained this time, but we had more churches, houses of worship built, okay, planted 10 churches, sponsored students, 24 missionary volunteers instead of just 4, and they were able now to see 3,000 patients. They perform all kind of surgeries, dental work, cataract surgeries, all different type of procedures, and the collective difference through the work itself there in those communities and the surrounding were 10,000 people directly impacted. And then in the evening, the doctors would give lectures. I would preach in the evenings, and through the radio and the airways and TV, we were able to reach at least 500,000 people. That was kind of impact. So there you go. I mean, I don't want to belay the point, but I want you to understand when we are getting into this course why prayer is powerful and impacting, because none of this would have been a reality without the power of prayer. So that's why I wanted to share with you, to show you that these are the things that are possible when regular average people begin to pray. I am from the Caribbean islands. Never in my life would I have expected to have traveled to now over 26 different countries. All throughout Southern Africa, we've been to. The only places pretty much we haven't touched or directly impacted is Angola. We tried to get into Angola before, but we just couldn't. No matter what we did, it just seemed to never be able to work out. But pretty much everywhere else in Southern Africa, we have footprints there. We will be able to make impacts all throughout Southern Africa. And then on the western side of Africa, there's still work to do. So, like we said, we went to Liberia, Ghana. The doctor, of course, did work in Senegal. So we still have some work. We want to do some more in those particular regions. But on the east, through indirect ministry, I personally worked in Kenya, Tanzania, but through our ministry endeavors as well, Ethiopia, Sudan are places that have been worked already. This is global perspective. This is about not just us. So we want to know how prayer can impact those areas of your life. Again, it doesn't matter if it's spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, financial, relational. All of these areas of your life can be made better when you understand the science of prayer, not just praying as in uttering words. We want to teach you the science of prayer. So again, welcome to Prayers That Move Heaven. We are going to take the next few weeks together and dissect this thing. I'm going to give you just a big, broad overview at this time, but I want you to stay tuned here every single Thursday for the next couple of weeks. We're going to delve into this thing together so you can understand how to get your prayers answered with more accuracy. My claim is that every prayer can be answered 100% of the time when you understand the science behind it, and also how to actually move heaven on bended knees. This, I believe, is the key thing to turning the world upside down at this moment. This, I believe, more than all others, is the key reason why, especially in the West, we don't seem to see more of the power and might and majesty of God. But I'm telling you, God is powerful. We have seen things with our own self. I'm not giving you here theory. I'm giving you practical things. How I've seen God move in miraculous ways in my own health, in other people's life, doors being open. I mean, my life, the careers that I've had were not orchestrated by man or by manipulation. They have all been because of God's favor, blessing, and through prayer. This is what I believe truly can take your life, business, ministry to the next level. Yes, business, I said too, because some people think, oh, because I'm in business, this doesn't apply to me. Let me tell you, if you're in business, this more than applies to you. Because when you read sacred scriptures, let me tell you, it has more to say about money than actually any topic, subject in all of the Bible. That's right. The Bible has more to say about money than heaven, faith, and hell combined. All three of them, the Bible has more to say because we don't apply. That's the problem. Again, you have to know the science, you have to know protocol, and that's what I want to break down in the next few weeks with you. So let me give you the big overview, right? This is an introduction tonight. So here's a big overview. Maybe we had some technical difficulties, and so some of you might not be able to see what we are doing, but I'm talking about now the science of prayer. In the book Prayer, it says there is prayer and faith are closely allied and they need to be studied together. In the prayer of faith, there is a divine science, and it is a science that everyone who would make their life work is success must understand. And notice how broad that is. If you're going to make your life work, it doesn't matter what your life work is, whatever God called you to, whether you are in medicine, whether you are, a dentist, a lawyer, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, whether you're a student, whether you are even a janitor, whatever God called you to be, a mechanic, a missionary, a pastor, a teacher, anything, you can make your life more successful by understanding the divine science of prayer. This is a powerhouse, I'm telling you. And I have some research that I'm going to, again, present to you over the weeks, again, of people, hospitals, Mayo Clinic, all of these different places like Harvard and other places have done studies, right? We're talking about reputable sources on the news like CNN and other places, Newsmax, all of these places breaking down research about the impact of prayer on people's lives. I'm telling you, it's amazing. But people look at it as taboo and and so forth. But hey, you know what? More power to you. If you're getting by with your stuff, that's all right with you. But the stuff I'm giving you, I know work because they've been working for me for all my life. All right. Now, so we're gonna wrap this all in what we call neology, right? Neology is not the study of the knee. No, neology is the study of the science and art. I mean, the art and science of effective prayer. So that's what neology is all about, right? So when we say knee now, again, we knee like knee meal because remember we want to move heaven on our knees. So I'm giving you the secrets of neology. We're gonna cover 5 different aspects or 5 modules, 5 trainings that are associated with this concept, this idea of neology being a study. And I'll call it that because we need something, right? No, I don't want to call it prayerology. I want to call it neology because I want you to see the activities that are connected with it. Because sometimes, again, when we mention prayer, what most people just think of uttering a few words. And that's really all there is to it. Now, again, if that's all you do, it's better to do something than nothing. But now you have to mature in your faith. You have to mature in your prayer life. You need more than just the simply uttering a few words. You need to understand these things because this is the game changer in your life. So in Neology 101, this is what we're going to cover next week. We're going to talk about all about the who, the what, when, where, why, and how of prayer. Right? That's what we're going to be going into next week, Neology 101. And Neology 202, 201, we're going to be talking about the foundations of effective prayer. We're going to lay a firm foundation on which we build. We're going to talk about the principles and strategies of effective prayer. And then the next week, we're going to be talking in Neology 301. We're going to talk about how to get your prayers answered 100% of the time. And closely related to that is Neology 401, prayers that God delights to answer every time. Did you get that? Prayers that God delights and desires to answer every single time. Those 2 modules, when you get those 2 modules, trust me, it will revolutionize your life. If nothing else, I know that much that if there is no other training that you get out of these couple of weeks, you must, well, of course, you're going to need all of it because you need the foundations, right? Because if you miss the foundation, it's like going to the advance, right? But at least what I'm telling you, though, 301 and 401 are to me the biggest game changers in the whole science and art of prayer. If you understand these 2 secrets, trust me, it's just going to up level your life, career, business, everything. Okay, and finally, we're going to talk about in Neology 501. This is the advanced strategies of breakthrough prayers. In other words, what do you do when nothing else absolutely seems to work? When you've even tried all the best strategies of prayer and nothing seems to be working? Or you're praying, you probably incorporated all the right stuff. You've taken care of all the blinders and all the things that could derail your prayer life, but it just seems you can't make it. Let me tell you, there are some strategies that you can utilize to get some breakthroughs. And that's how we're going to be ending our time together in studying prayers that move heaven. Neology is the art and science of effective prayer. So again, notice I'm choosing my words carefully. All right, I'm choosing them carefully. It is the art and the science of not just prayer, but effective prayer. Effective means that produce an effect or an outcome or a result. So, in other words, we're not just praying and uttering words, we are taking it beyond that. We are utilizing and looking at prayer as an art. When you look at art, you can see something there, right? You look, it's done in a certain way. Science, again, again, proving things. It's not, haphazard stuff. Art and science goes together, and we're going to show you how, again, in the life of people in the Old and the New Testaments, Elijah, David, and all of these powerful men of Paul and others, how were they able to move heaven? Because they understood the art and science of effective prayer. Before I go, I want to leave you with this quotation. Every sincere prayer that is offered is mingled with the efficacy of Christ's blood. If the answer is deferred, it is because God desires to show us holy boldness in claiming the word of God. So it's not necessarily a denial, but it's that sometimes, especially like I say in the West, we have this microwave mentality, and this is part of the challenges that derail answers to prayer. But sometimes many of us give up and we say, oh, it wasn't God's will, and I guess it wasn't meant to be. No, no, no. Let me tell you, God wants you and He wants me sometimes to press in and not just simply, come with. Because here's the thing: sometimes if He answers you right away, guess what happened? We don't even call upon Him anymore. I got what I need, and I'm gone. So we want you to begin learning some of these strategies. And by the way, we have a prayer room. All right, I want you to join the Facebook prayer room. It is called Prayers That Move Heaven. Go on Facebook and type in Prayers That Move Heaven, or go on my personal page, RL Chance, and from there you should be able to get the link. But at least search in your Facebook, go and search for prayer Prayers That Move Heaven. That's a private prayer room where you can put your petitions in there to be prayed for, or you yourself can read and pray for other people's petition. This will help you again to be able to get into that groove and a community, right? Because we believe again in leveraging our prayers, not just simply one, which is part of the strategy too. Two are better than one sometimes, right? And sometimes you might not be able to get a breakthrough, but somebody else who has a greater connection with the divine, you see, they have a more vertical connection with God, and so therefore you need them praying on your behalf as well. See, there's some people, when I have issues, I don't go to everybody. I don't want everybody praying for me, right? Now, I do value prayer, but let me tell you, people who don't get their answers to prayer, I don't want them praying for me. Why? Because if nothing else, that probably might be a doubtful prayer. No, God responds to faith. So I want that people I know that when they pray, things happen. These are the people that I seek out to pray for me. And that's why we wanted to start this private community on Facebook, so we can teach our own people how to pray. So that way, when things are happening, people have issues, we can post them in that group. And that's why I go many times to post a lot of even local prayers. I put them in the group. And so you can join. Okay, there's no cost for that. Just join. Just send a message, and we'll be able to approve you. Alrighty. So if you have any questions, here's an interesting email. I want you to send your questions, your prayer requests to email at prayersthatmoveheaven.com. Notice that again. Email. Right. That's how we're going. KNEEMAIL. Right. Like your knee mail. What you kneel on. That's what we're talking about. So send your prayer requests. That's all questions that you have about prayer, and we'll do our best to be able to answer you. Even today, recently, I don't know, was it today or yesterday? I think it was today. Could have been yesterday, but nonetheless, I had even someone who is on our mailing list is from Myanmar. He's a pastor, and he was glad to see us doing this particular training. So I hope that he's on tonight. And if you're not, we hope that you will be able to get the replay. All right. So that's all we're going to cover for now. Remember, don't ask for permission to succeed. God has already gifted you with talents, with gifts. And so you want to be able to go out there and leverage the talents and expertise that He's given to you. Do not make apologies for how God has wired you and gifted you. We are now in a world where everything is a political thing. No, you want to just use what God has given to you and feel free to be the man, woman that He has called you to be. You don't have to make any excuses for that, but some people need permission. So here am I. I'm giving you the permission to go out there and be all that God has created you to be, to take all that God has given you to take, to be, to have, and to do all that God has in store for you is the greatest legacy that we can. You see, someone said that God has given us the gift of life, and what we do with that life is like our gift back to Him. So give God a good gift. Use up the life energies that He has given to you. Leverage all your talents and expertise into products, programs, and services. Bless His children, and I tell you, if you just do that, God Himself will bless you abundantly. And my last challenge is this. Last night I also was at church, and we had prayer meeting. And our challenge for the whole entire month, as so many of you have known it, just the last month as well. Well, not last month, was it last month of February? Our church, we already in January, we paid off our mortgage for our church. So now I have two churches that are entirely debt free, right? So we paid off the mortgage for the church, and we did a celebration, and we are excited about that. But what we're challenging the church right now is this. Pray only for this month, bold prayer. In other words, the prayers that you feel are so big and none of your family, your friends, your whoever can answer that prayer. That's the kind of prayer we've challenged in our congregation to do. Bold prayers only. Why? Because Hebrews 4:16 says, come boldly unto the throne of grace, so that we can obtain mercy and grace to help in our time of need. But many of us, we have people who can solve our problems. And so that's why probably sometimes we don't ask God boldly, because if he doesn't come through, we say, oh, our friends can do it for us. So that's the difference to me. If man can solve your problem, trust me, you don't have a big enough prayer. If man can be, if your parents, your brother, your sister, your uncle, if these are the people you can just go and ask, why not just go and ask them? See, I'm talking about now moving heaven. We're talking about those bold, audacious prayers like Joshua asking the sun to, and the moon to stand still. We are talking about like Hezekiah saying, don't put the sun down to go forward 10 degrees, send it backwards. That's a difficult thing. We are talking about like Elisha saying, I don't just want some of your spirit, I want a double portion. So much so that Elijah said, you have asked a hard thing. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Don't just ask God for enough money to get by. No, ask Him for abundant blessings so you can be a blessing in return. All right. So I leave that with you. We see you next week for Neology 101. Remember, this whole month, our theme is prayers that move heaven. God bless you. I'll see you soon.